Give me a second here. All right, can everybody see that? Good. All right, so as we said, this is the Gladstone Library update. This first slide, we wanted to talk about kind of the progress we made from master plan to now. What we're showing here is the original budget from the master plan phase was $6 million. We had a third-party estimate in July of 2021, or this last July, and that came out to 7.4. That's the budget that we had when we met back in August. That's the budget we had discussed at that time. And since that August meeting, we have hired PNC Construction as our CMGC. So we're really excited to have them on board. Some of you may know that they recently did the Gladstone Civic Center, so they're very familiar with the City Hall and this project too. So that was, we're really excited about that. But part of what we've been trying to do since our August meeting is get our CMGC on board and to help us, either confirm or just make sure we have a good solid number estimate for what the project cost is. So after going through the process with them, we came out to about 7.7 million, the all-in estimate based on schematic design. And then the last column is taking their estimate and going with some of the value engineering, which is the same value engineering we talked about last time. Like the big ones were going to steel structure from CLT, eliminating radiant floor heat, the screen, changing the screen from the ebony wood to a perforated metal screen, and also changing the height of the building around the community room and offices. So with those, we went back and I think we're little, I won't say aggressive. We found some little math errors in it, and so we've come down to about 7 million total cost for the project. So that's the budget side, and then this is where our funding sits right now. So we have state ARPA funds of $500,000. That's the funds secured by Representative Meek. That's what that represents. We have a Gladstone Library beginning fund balance of 300,000, and then really the library budget portion of the revenue bond 2.1. That's been that way since the start. That's been set. And then we have the general fund portion of the revenue bond of 3.9 million. So when you add all those up, and the numbers in parentheses, sorry, next to those two revenue bond numbers, that's the yearly debt. Yearly debt payments for those revenue bonds over the 20 years. So you see we have a total of 6.8 million in funding for those. So when you look at all that together, we right now are showing a budget shortfall of 200,000. There's a couple different ways we can address the shortfall. We can reduce the construction / design contingencies by 200,000. Right now we have about 900,000 figured in, which the contingencies we're carrying are pretty standard for this at this point in design. So if we took 200,000 out, we'd still have 700,000 left in contingency. Or we could increase the general fund portion of the revenue bond by 200,000 to make up that difference. So Cindy, did you have, sorry.
Yes, we have another option which was discussed with the board, which is taking $200,000 from the ARPA money that was allocated to Clackamas County. So that's really a third option since this PowerPoint was put together.
Okay, thank you. So these are the options we're going to bring to the board next week on Tuesday on the 23rd. So this is kind of a timeline of where we are and what we're going to do. So in October, we had an agreement with the city of Gladstone to extend the schedule by 4 months per the IGA. This 4-month schedule extension right now would put design complete on April 1st of next year. And this is no different than what we talked about back in August when we mentioned the 4-month delay. This is the same one. We're not asking for any additional delays that we haven't discussed. So November 9th, we had met with the Board of Commissioners in an issues meeting. And we're here today for the task force update because we want to make sure, one, that there's no confusion as to what's going on, and we welcome any feedback or questions on what the next steps are or what's going on. So November 18th, we have a library board meeting, and then next week, November 23rd, we'll meet with the Board of Commissioners in the policy session to present our options and recommendations and get consensus to move forward. So if everything goes as we hope it will, we should be starting design back up in December again, based on decision made by the board. So a couple other things that aren't on here that I'll mention that we have done that will help us move along is we did have a pre-app meeting for design review, which is required by the city of Gladstone, and that went very well. So nothing came out of that should be a major issue or hurdle. So that went well. Yeah, I think that's it for that slide. And then we'll just show a time. Oh, Deborah.
Deborah, we see your hand. Go ahead if you want to unmute with a question.
Hi, I guess this is for Cindy. That third option for the 200,000 shortfall, that went by me very fast. So if you could repeat what that is and explain it.
Sure. The county is receiving $81 million for $81 million of ARPA money spread over a couple of years. And we are in the process, the Board of Commissioners is in the process of allocating those funds. And we believe that the needs for this library, the location of the library would qualify it for those funds. So we would take the recommendation is to take the $200,000 out of the ARPA money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this is our updated timeline with the 4-month delay in there. So we get approval to move next week. Design would be complete in around spring of 2022. we'd turn in for permit and hopefully get permit in the summer of 2022. And we would start construction in fall of 2022. And right now we're still showing a 12-month construction schedule. So that would put us with construction complete in fall of 2023. I see some hands up. Christy. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, yeah, Christine, then Nancy.
So I guess my question is, because we are in uncertain times now,
Mhm.
and we've already seen the budget kind of go kaflooey. How much of a contingency plan do we have? Because I can't see prices going down in any time soon because of all the
No.
shortages, and I mean the labor shortages and all sorts of, you know, containers out there in the ocean, and you know, all import issues and things like that. So what kind of plan do we have? Because it's just going to be more expensive by the time we actually start and through construction. So what's the game plan?
Well, right now, in our estimates, we're carrying about 20% contingency on there. So the idea would be if things do go up, we would use that draw that contingency down to help offset some of those cost issues. The other thing we'll start looking into more once we know, like, if we're going to go with a steel structure, which I'm sure we will, we'll start looking at long lead items, and that's what having P&C on board, they can help us plan ahead of time, because we might need to order some of this stuff earlier than the start of construction, to make sure, one, we get on schedule and that we're not caught having something not being able to show up on time. So schedule is going to be a critical issue to deal with. So we'll have to look at a lot of long lead items, which I'm imagining might be steel. I've heard is, and mechanical equipment may be something we'll have to look at too. Does that answer your question?
To a certain extent. I mean, otherwise we're going to have one hell of a bake sale somewhere, you know, because I know we've talked about, you know, possibly looking at grants, maybe for energy efficiencies, selling bricks, you know, and those may be drops in a bucket. But I mean, I think we maybe need to look at if there's some way we can find alternative revenues just in case.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
And Nancy, go ahead. I see your hand.
So Jason, does this budget, the new budget, include the demolition of City Hall, which I think, if I remember correctly, was going to cost more than what we thought? And when would that thing come down?
To answer your first question, it does include that. We don't know for sure. What I would say is that we probably won't demo it until right before we want to start construction of the new building. We don't want to tear it down and have just a mud hole or just a open area space with fencing around it for months. So we would ideally time it to where we get that building demoed in time to start construction in the fall of 2022. So I would imagine it might be late summer of 2022, possibly, where we would demo it.
Well, it seems like you could save some money doing it sooner rather than later. And I know folks are like really anxiously wondering when something is going to happen on that property. So that's just my comment on that.
I kind of agree with what you're saying, Nancy. And some might say a fence is an improvement.
I mean, we'll look into it, but we'll want to take P&Cs. You know, they'll have a good idea of what they want to do. Also, we just don't want to have any kind of safety hazard or anything working in that area. So we'll take a look at it, but that's what I was thinking originally, so. Lisa, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so if the county has $1 million, what's going to happen to that money? Let's say we take 200,000 of it. What happens to what's left?
I'm not sure I'm following your question on that. We would ask for the 200,000. I think they have more than $1 million in these ARPA funds. Is that what you're asking about the third option,
Yes.
county ARPA funds?
County has $81 million in ARPA
Yeah.
funds, which it is going to be used for a variety of projects that meet pretty strict guidelines, to be honest. And so they have not made a decision about how all those funds are going to be allocated. Some of it is going to replace lost revenue as a result of COVID. And there is a significant drop in revenue for many county departments. And they're also looking at some projects like broadband, which is very specifically eligible for these dollars. So there's categories that they'll have to look at, and they're in the process of doing that.
When will we know how the money's going to be allocated?
I don't have an exact timeline, Commissioner Sabas. I don't know if you have that information.
We are tentatively getting some budgeting ideas around the first payment, which is about 41 million, and next spring we will get the other 40 million. So it'll be something that will be accruing as time goes on. The other thing, and Cindy's quite aware of this, is that the guidance of these dollars is something that's been long overdue. So right now we feel that it's eligible under their criteria, but it's complicated. Not everything's eligible. So it's just really a matter of ultimately, if the need for the dollars or the draw on the dollars is now, it's pretty clear what we can do. If the guidance comes out by December or January 1, we might be able to do less or do more. We just don't know what the federal guidance is going to be.
This is an overdue project and we'd like a bit of emphasis on it.
Totally understand. There's a number of projects. And so, you know, you all know that I've been following these projects, and I'm gonna be a strong supporter of these two library projects. I guarantee you that.
Does that answer your question, Lisa? Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions on this slide?
I thought this was one library project.
One library, two buildings. So that was it. So I guess what I wanted to mention is that, you know, obviously you guys, your group did a lot of great work in the master plan, and just to kind of reiterate your role, you know, now since the master plan is you guys are community liaisons, and we just, the role here is we will be updating you periodically. So for the next update after this, the next big update will probably be after design development, DD, and then the final set of drawings, CD drawings, will have task force. And in between all that, we have the art subcommittee that we will be having meetings also, possibly starting in December, depending on how things go. So, but we do want your feedback, and if you have any other questions, now would be a good time to bring them up. So with that,
Okay, I see a number of hands. Christy, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to give it to Beverly, since we haven't heard from Beverly yet, and then I'll come to Christy, and I'll see who else has got hands up.
It seems like that you talk about the 4 months, but this seems like it's being pushed back further than that. It's just like, we're never gonna get started. It's the feeling I have. And I don't know how many others feel that way, but that's the way I feel. Why is the design not been going forward all along? Why do we have to wait so long? And now you're saying it's not going to be completed till 2023. And is that going to roll over into 2024? I mean, we just keep moving it forward. It's like we're never going to get it.
I hear your frustration. What I can say is, I mean, the reason we had this delay was we had a third-party estimate, and we needed another estimate to confirm what our budget is, especially with COVID and the way supply chain and everything is going. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have a larger issue, and we're hoping maybe that we could come with better numbers, but that was the main reason to delays, to get that CMGC partner on board to help firm up those numbers. So now we feel a lot better about the numbers we do have and going forward with that.
Is this time frame that you're giving us now, is it firm, or is it going to keep being a moving target? That's my concern.
It's, yeah, right now it's very, the only thing I can think is right now we're saying April 1st. We might need a couple weeks after April 1st. It just depends on how quickly we can get up and running with design, but it's not going to be a sizable delay. So I feel really good about sticking to that.
So April 1st is what?
That's the per our agreement with the city of Gladstone. That's the date right now that we've agreed that we'll have design complete.
Okay.
So that's before we turn in for permit drawings.
And how long after design approval will the permits be pulled?
Liz, do you remember what are we estimating for a timeline for that?
I think we have 3 to 4 months, and it could be less, and it could be a little bit more, but that's kind of based on our recent project experience, and it just depends on a little bit how much is going into the county at the time for review and what comes back. So we'll do our best to keep that moving through permitting as quickly as possible.
Okay, I guess, I know that you're trying to answer my questions, and I think you understand the frustration that all of us feel, because we've wanted a new library for a long time. And this moving target thing is hard to deal with.
I see a lot of nodding heads to that point, Beverly. So thank you for those points. Let's go to Christy.
Well, to kind of build off of what Beverly was saying, the longer this takes, the more expensive it's going to be. I mean, it's a moving target. So the things that could be done quicker, in my mind, such as tearing down the building, it's going to cost less now than it will in 6 months, most likely. I do understand a liability issue, but I mean, people could break into the building now as it is if they really wanted to, and fall down and hurt themselves. But I think one of the things too that I found frustrating, and maybe some of the other members too, is when we have this meeting, we get this agenda, well, this and this and this and this and this all happened, by the way. And there's no communication with us about how things were moving forward. And I would love to see, because it sounds like it's going to be a while before we have the next meeting. But it would be nice just to get like some little email updates saying, hey, You know, we met with the county commissioners. This happened. It was great. Now we're going to move forward. Okay, now we've met, we've got the design complete. We're going to move forward rather than just a large email. Well, this is what happened, folks, since, you know, we last saw you. And I think I would like to see a little bit more communication. That would help my frustration level a little bit.
We can absolutely do that.
Yeah, we can do better with that.
I just think you can't, I don't know if you can over communicate. Okay, maybe you can, but you know,
Yes, you can.
I think there's a good balance that we can maybe try to achieve. So that's all I just wanted to bring up. So I appreciate you listening.
Other questions, comments from folks? I know y'all got opinions because I know
I'm
you
not as
do.
worried about the timeline as I am about the county's commitment to the second half of the library.
Mm,
I want this one to be, you know, equal importance in funding in every other respect.
mhm. Thanks, Todd.
Allison.
Yeah, Lorraine.
So I think, Jason, we talked about maybe getting the art committee to have a meeting. Is this a good time to maybe get that on the agenda for them? Or maybe we could even re-identify who the art committee is?
Yeah, we can, because I remember we met back in, I want to say June, maybe was the last time we met as the art. So, and we can look, I'd have to look at some dates in December, I think, towards mid to late December would probably be a better time to meet once we get design up and running again. But I can try to come up with some dates for that to throw up. But I'll look at the meeting we had last time, and I think I can get all the members, I think it's 3 or 4 members we had for that committee.
I think it was Lisa and Lanny and who else?
May.
May.
Yeah.
Oh, and May's not here today. Oh.
Yeah. You can definitely look. That was on one of my first things I was going to deal with once we did get moving again.
I think it would be smart to wait till the design is done.
Not until April 1st.
No. What did you just say, Jason, about the
I was
design?
saying when design starts up again, because we want to integrate it into design if
Mhm.
we can. So we want to start sooner than later.
So folks, if I can reflect back what I've heard tonight from this group, I'm hearing some general concerns from folks about timeline. And I know that this group is really committed to this library. We've been waiting a long time for it. So I hear some concern about if the timeline is going to continue to be pushed out. I heard a couple of concerns about or kind of raising like, hey, could the city hall demolition be done earlier? Noting that that's a whole thing, but that there is interest in this group from some people in this group that happens sooner, both for cost considerations and because I think there's something about y'all really not liking the city hall building. That was a joke. And there's also a desire for more communication, which I think is shared. I think there was a little like, hey, maybe too much communication is possible, but especially around some of these key milestone updates going to the board and things progressing and design restarting up, a desire to kind of be informed regularly on how this is progressing, even if it's a short update. And then it sounds like the arts committee will reconvene in December. Was there anything anybody wants to add to that? Again, this meeting, it's a shorter meeting. It serves as a check-in, but you do have elected officials here. You've got Commissioner Savas, and I see Councilor Garlington also in the audience. But anybody want to kind of share anything else or note any other concerns, questions, hopes that you have? Margaret, I see you.
I did also mention commitment.
I have 2 things. One is the fact that the ongoing costs of trying to keep up the current library, how much of that is being factored into this and putting it off? And the other concern is when they start tearing down that building, we know there was an old oil tank underneath. How much are they going to find underneath that's going to take longer to take all of that apart than what they expect? So I think starting to take that building down earlier would give them a better timeline when we get started on the construction of the new building.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a risk, right? Of when you tear down these old buildings. One, you hope you had good as-built drawings that show the existing systems that are there, but sometimes you do run into surprises. So we are aware of the oil tank, and we have a plan for how to deal with that. So that is something we're aware of. But yeah, it's just something we'll be looking at throughout the design phase here, and we'll be talking with P&C and everybody, and we'll do as much investigation prior to construction as we can to make sure we identify all those risks.
Deborah, I saw your hand go up and then go down. Did you have something you want to share? And Lisa, I see you too.
Well, I think Commissioner Savas has already answered the question I had about when we would know whether the ARPA funds were actually going to be available for the library. But I think he said we might know in December.
I currently, under the current guidance, it is clear, as Cindy stated, that these funds are eligible to be used for this particular purpose, that 200,000, and there is 200,000 available that we currently have to do that. So what Cindy says is accurate. As far as the budgeting or when we'll get the final guidance, I think I used the word December. But we're not even sure about that. It should have been. We should have had the guidance in August, and here we are today. But that's not going to impede any commitment for the 200,000 today.
Okay, so we can be pretty confident in that.
Yes.
Lisa, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I understand what everybody's saying about knocking down that building in terms of cost, and it's an ugly building. I agree. But I also think we do need to think about what is it going to look like when it's sitting there for the amount of time it's going to be sitting there with a fence around it. Because I think that will be unsightly. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, Lisa, at another corner, down on the corner on Portland Avenue, there's a bare lot with a fence around it that's been there for years. And it's unsightly, but nobody's done anything about it or made it go away. So what's one more? And it might make all of us feel like there was being some progress.
Well, the building, the project you're talking about on the end of the corner was the marsh pit, and it belongs to a guy that can no longer fix it. The city hall is just a building. It's an inanimate object that never did anything to anybody. Take it down when we need to.
I have mixed feelings. I guess that's my point.
I am hearing kind of in the desire, like, I think the underlying need of all of this is like, folks don't love City Hall, but also really want to see progress on this and are concerned about the timeline, really concerned about, costs going up and escalating. If this last 2 years have taught us anything, is that things change. So
Well, the building is here in Gladstone. It's not overseas. So we can demo it anytime we want.
Are there anything else that folks want to raise in this space while we're here together? Oh, Commissioner, yeah.
Yeah, I just have something I want to add. I think, I can't remember who said it, may have been Todd, if I understood it correctly, and that is that it's not lost on me, the concept of where we are today and how these two libraries are really one library, two locations, two different cost estimates, two different projects, but essentially the goal is to have really, you know, a system between the two libraries that's really one. So there will be assets at each that will complement one another. But I'm not sure my colleagues on the commission know that these are connected projects. And I would just maybe communicate maybe with some of the folks, some of you are here tonight that are part of the Oak Lodge portion of this, and, you know, in any communication efforts, maybe stress upon the fact that these two projects complement one another. They were designed to complement one another. So I really want to see the package go together as originally conceived. That's my personal statement and my personal comment and some suggestion as far as reaching out. And if there's any opportunity to communicate with anyone, that we again stress that particular point.
Thank you.
Nancy, go ahead.
So I appreciate that, Commissioner Savas. I'm confused about whether we're decoupling or not. Are we still waiting around for the Oak Grove project to move along?
Well, as you all know, as you all remember, you know, the Gladstone project has always been a few paces ahead for the most part, and we've known that all along. And the Oak Lodge Concord site's a little bit more complicated because of the park aspect. So, you know, my concern is that they are done within a reasonable amount of time. They're both done again to complement one another, but I'm not too worried about, you know, the Gladstone one, which seems to be closer to being ready to go. I don't have any problem with that one going first. I just don't want to see the other one lag that much farther behind, or to get what I said the other day, a haircut. Does that help?
That does help. And the haircuts is, you know, being the, you know, all right, if we get something done, are we taking another haircut while the county comes into tons of money from the federal government? You know, we want to be first on the list for improvements and increases, not further haircuts.
Yeah. The way I see it now, tell me if I'm wrong, but I kind of see that you're probably, or the Gladstone portion of this project is more secure. It is more secure as is than any of the other projects that were discussed. So I don't see this one taking a hit, but where, you know, I guess to some degree there's always a level of uncertainty. I mean, I don't want to see another natural disaster take place that just throws us in a loop, like whether it's an ice storm or a forest fire or another COVID outbreak that we didn't foresee. But the way it's looking, I'm optimistic that we've seen the worst of this storm and things are going to get better.
I want to check back in with Nancy. I think Nancy, did that answer your question? Or
Todd kind of hijacked my question there, but I'm just trying to get a clear answer from Commissioner Savas, and that was probably as good as a politician can answer that question. Thanks, Paul.
Welcome, Nancy.
Lorraine, are you cool if we roll into public comment? Oh, you're muted, but I think that was a yes, maybe.
Unmuted, yes, please.
Cool. All right, if there's anybody here to give public comment this evening, I see a few of you out there. You can do that by raising your hand. We hold about 10 minutes in our meeting, so I can give folks up to 3 minutes. If you're calling in on the phone, you can press *9, or you should be able to hover at the bottom of your screen and raise your hand digitally on Zoom. And this is the awkward silence part where we wait to see if there's anybody who raises their hand. Also, hi Mitzi, hi Jackie, hi folks. I know you're out there. Okay, I don't see any hands, so Lorene, back to you. We can close public comment.
Okay, we're closing public comment, moving forward. So Jason, I guess I hear people want more communication, and since you're going to be presenting to the board on November 23rd, do you think we could get a recap or a summary of how that happened? And maybe it could be a monthly thing, an email from you telling us what's happening. And then I guess I'd like to know when our next meeting is. Are we going to schedule one? Or are we going to?
I'll take a look. I'm thinking it's going to be sometime in February, possibly. Liz, does that sound about right? When maybe we'd be done with DD?
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to, similarly to what we've talked about in previous meetings, we'll talk about what we really need to get feedback from you all on and figure out when it makes the most sense at the end of DD to kind of come back to you. So
Okay,
yeah,
so
I'll have to get back with you on a date, but I agree. We obviously, when you're in master plan phase, you guys met at a much more regular basis, and the way this next phase is set up, it's not been as many meetings. So we can definitely give updates. We for sure will give you an update after next Tuesday's meeting.
and then one in December would be great too.
Yep.
If anything new is happening.
Yeah.
Nancy.
So I appreciate increasing communication, and if there are any things that come up from the art committee or folks like that the foundation, or there might be a fundraising effort for that requires a lot of lead time as well. We can't wait to the very end to start projects like selling the bricks or raising money for a fountain or whatever it's going to be. So just want to keep that in mind, that those folks need to be kept in the loop even more than the broader committee. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah. I think when we have the arts subcommittees, we can talk about that and what we want to tell the rest of the group, what comes out of those as far as that's concerned. Does that make sense?
I think they've been waiting for something for a long time, like selling the bricks and anything that would get people excited about the new library and help pay for something at the same time. So we can't just open the doors and then start that campaign.
Yeah.
Well, and it gets the community involved and let us know, okay, there is something moving. Just even if it's a baby step is better than no steps at all.
Well, yeah, and also that something that the community can feel like they're part of the library in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
Okay. Anything else, Allison? Jason?
I'm good.
We're good, everybody?
I just want to thank everybody for their hard work, and Commissioner Savas for your support. Really appreciate you. So, and everybody else for their hard work. So, and have a great holiday season as we end, folks.
Yeah, that sounds great. I agree totally. Thank you, everyone, for coming, especially Paul. Appreciate that. And I guess we won't be talking again until February 2022, but we're going to get those updates, right?
You'll hear from
Okay.
us before
All
then.
right. With that, thank you all for coming, and we're adjourned.